What happens when the past and present collide in unexpected ways? Veronica, a strong 35-year-old woman, finds herself in a daily silent battle to regain the love of her 13-year-old son, David. After a tumultuous marriage to Richard, the heir to a chain of coffee shops, her life was turned upside down. During the divorce, her ex-mother-in-law, Helen, manipulated the situation so that Veronica was portrayed as a drug user, resulting in her losing custody of her son. Years have passed, and now Veronica struggles to rebuild her life as a driver of a bi-articulated bus in Seattle, dreaming of the day she can reunite with David and correct the mistakes of the past. Veronica's routine is marked by challenges and loneliness. She wakes up every morning before the sun rises, ready to face the bustling streets of the city. The disdainful looks and jokes from passengers often make her feel small and invisible. However, her determination to become a better mother drives her to keep going. During her routes, she observes families gathered and children laughing, reminding her of the connection she once had with David. Each day is a struggle, but also an opportunity for hope. One morning, while on her route, Veronica encounters a group of wealthy teenagers on the bus. The group includes Michael, her son, who does not recognize the driver in front of them. The boys, surrounded by an aura of arrogance, mock her, questioning her abilities simply because she is a woman. They have no idea what she truly faces. When Veronica unknowingly removes the scarf covering her hair, Michael is confronted with a revelation that hits him like a punch in the gut. The woman he was mocking is, in fact, his mother, the same woman he believed had abandoned him. The tension between them escalates, and in a moment of courage, Michael confronts Veronica. He asks, with a choked voice, why she abandoned him. In that instant, Veronica's vulnerability is revealed. She is not just a bus driver, but a mother who has fought against adversity and has been a victim of the lies and manipulations of her ex-family. The pain in her eyes is immense, and Michael begins to realize that the stories he has heard throughout his life have been distorted by those who were supposed to protect him. As the story unfolds, Michael begins to understand the truth about his mother and the lies that surrounded him. The path to reconciliation will not be easy, and the challenges imposed by Richard and Helen still loom large. However, Veronica is determined to rebuild her relationship with David, and each small step in that direction is an emotional triumph. Veronica's story of overcoming adversity is marked by transformations, not only in her life but in her son's life as well. Her fight for visitation rights and the pursuit of a meaningful presence in Michael's life becomes a symbol of hope and resilience. In the end, the connection they begin to rebuild is a testament to the power of love and truth. Veronica finally feels she is on the right path to becoming the mother she always wanted to be, even as the past continues to haunt her. This journey of transformation reveals that even in the most difficult situations, it is possible to find a way back to the light. Veronica gazed out the bus window, watching the city awaken. The streets of Seattle were beginning to come alive with the movement of cars and pedestrians. She appreciated the routine she had built, but the weight of loneliness felt more intense each day. The memory of David's disappointed gaze still haunted her. It was an open wound that never healed. As she drove, she felt the pressures of her former life with every turn, every stop, every laugh that escaped a passenger. That day, however, something different was about to happen. The bus stopped at one of the busiest stations, and a group of teenagers boarded, laughing loudly, oblivious to who was around them. Among them was Michael, her son, whom she hadn't seen in years. Veronica felt her heart race. A mix of joy and anxiety took hold of her. It was him, but he didn't recognize her. To him, She was just an anonymous driver, a stranger in his comfortable, privileged life. The teenagers, surrounded by a typical arrogance of their age and social class, began to mock Veronica. Comments about her appearance, her profession, and even her age echoed in the bus. She forced herself to maintain a neutral expression, but inside, she felt torn apart. Each word was like a knife, cutting deeper into her soul. But the pain didn't stop there. When she removed the scarf covering her hair, Michael finally realized who was before him. The shock on his face was evident. The mockery gave way to a heavy silence. What was meant to be a moment of reunion transformed into a confrontation. Michael, still dazed, couldn't contain the anger boiling within him. He stood up abruptly, confronting Veronica with a choked voice. "Why did you abandon me?" The words hung in the air like a bomb, and Veronica felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. The weight of guilt hit her hard, and tears threatened to escape her eyes. Veronica wanted to explain. She wanted to shout that she hadn't abandoned anyone, that her life had been destroyed by lies. But instead, the words got stuck in her throat. Michael's gaze made her realize he believed everything he had been told. The pain of seeing her son, now a young man, believe she was the villain of his story was unbearable. Amid the emotional chaos, the voice of an older passenger echoed, "Leave her alone, kid. You know nothing about her." The intervention from the woman brought some relief to Veronica, but the open wound in her heart still throbbed. Michael turned to the woman, confused, but the truth was he didn't want to listen. He was trapped in his own pain, and that blinded him to his mother's reality. Veronica tried to regain her composure, but the words wouldn't come. The tension in the bus was palpable, and time seemed to stand still. The rest of the trip was a mix of tense and silent moments. With each stop, Veronica saw another chance to speak to Michael slip away. The path to reconciliation seemed more distant than ever. Upon arriving at the terminal, she knew she had to act. The bus stopped, and she turned to the passengers, trying to hold herself together. "Sorry, but I need a moment," she said, her voice trembling. As she stepped off the bus, Veronica felt a mix of determination and fear. She knew she had to face Michael, but what would she say? The words seemed to escape her when she needed them most. And when she turned to look for him, she realized he had already walked away, surrounded by his friends, laughing as if everything was fine. Veronica felt a wave of despair. It was as if any hope for a reunion had been swept away by that carefree laughter. What would she do now? The battle she had fought for years to rebuild herself seemed insignificant in light of that moment. The pain of rejection and the feeling of helplessness overwhelmed her. To complicate matters, the disapproving gaze of Richard, who was passing through the terminal with his new wife, met hers. His contempt made her feel even smaller. Amid all this, new challenges began to arise. The gossip about her life as a bus driver spread quickly among the wealthy families in the city, and Veronica started receiving disapproving looks not just from strangers, but from acquaintances who had never supported her. The internal struggle she faced was a reflection of what she knew Michael was also facing. The battle between what was true and what was a lie was just beginning, and Veronica realized she would need to find a strength she didn't even know she had to weather this storm. She decided she couldn't give up. Even in the face of new obstacles, her determination to reconnect with Michael would make her journey more meaningful. And so, as she looked toward the horizon, Veronica made a promise to herself. She would fight, not just for herself, but for her son. Because deep down, she knew that love could be the only bridge that would unite them again. Veronica sat on a bench in the terminal, her heart still racing from the scene she had just experienced. The image of Michael's gaze, mixed with anger and pain, wouldn't leave her mind. She knew she couldn't let it end like this, but with each passing second, the feeling of helplessness grew. The world seemed to spin around her while she remained still, trapped in an internal struggle that felt endless. As she looked at the people around her, she noticed disdain in some faces. The mothers, with their elegantly dressed children, whispered to each other, casting disapproving glances. Veronica felt the weight of her own thoughts, as if a shadow followed her with every step. The life she had chosen as a bus driver now felt like a testament to her failures. But the truth was she loved that job. The freedom of driving through the streets, getting to know the stories of different passengers, was a way for her to reconnect with life. Yet the voices in her mind weighed more. That afternoon, as she headed home, Veronica found a message on her phone from an old friend, Clara. They had drifted apart over the years, but Clara had always had a way of making Veronica smile. The message was simple: "I'm here for whatever you need. Let's grab a coffee?" The offer of support brought some comfort, and Veronica decided it was time to open her heart. As she prepared for the meeting, a wave of insecurity washed over her. What if Clara judged her choices? What if she didn't understand the pain Veronica carried? But the thought of facing her struggles alone felt even scarier. With a deep sigh, she decided to go. The cafe was a familiar place, filled with good memories and laughter, and perhaps it would help her find. In the cafe, Clara welcomed Veronica with a warm hug. The friendship they had shared seemed intact, even after so much time. However, Veronica hesitated to talk about Michael. The fear of being misunderstood paralyzed her. After a few minutes of light conversation, Clara noticed something was wrong. With a worried look, she asked what was bothering Veronica. And there, in the cozy cafe, Veronica opened up. The words began to flow, and she recounted the meeting on the bus, Michael's gaze, and the pain she felt for not being the mother he believed she was. Clara listened attentively, validating her feelings and offering words of support. With each exchanged word, Veronica felt a bit of the weight in her heart dissipate. But the feeling that she needed to do more, that something was still missing, continued to trouble her. After the cafe, Veronica decided she needed to take action. That night, she started writing a letter to Michael. The words were sincere, a catharsis from a mother who just wanted to be heard. As she wrote, tears streamed down her face, but that didn't stop her. She felt she had to do this. She needed to explain everything. The letter became a mirror of her soul, reflecting not only the pain but also the love she felt for him. The next day, armed with the letter, Veronica headed to Michael's school, her heart pounding. But upon arrival, the reception was cold. The staff member looked at her with disdain, as if she didn't belong in that world. He told her she couldn't see the student there, without compassion. Discouragement took hold of Veronica. The voices of rejection echoed in her mind, and the courage she had gathered seemed to slip through her fingers. Desperate, she decided she couldn't give up. If she couldn't deliver the letter directly, perhaps she could leave it with someone who could. With this in mind, she approached a teacher she knew. He recognized her and, after hearing her request, agreed to help. Veronica felt a slight relief, but anxiety still accompanied her. What would happen when Michael received the letter? And what if everything got worse? However, life had its own plans. The next day, she received an unexpected message from Clara, who had attended an event at Michael's school. She said she saw Michael that day. He seemed fine, but Clara noticed he was isolated. She spoke to him a bit, and he appeared sad. Clara's words hit Veronica like a bolt of lightning. Michael was struggling just like her. The thought that he was also going through difficulties broke her heart. Veronica realized she needed to move. She couldn't let fear paralyze her again. It was time to face her challenges head-on, not just for herself but for Michael too. The journey would be long, but now she knew she wasn't alone. With this new determination, she decided she would seek out Michael wherever he might be. And while the storms still threatened her path, she was more willing than ever to fight for a future where love could finally prevail over pain. Veronica woke up early the next day, feeling more determined than ever. The coffee was still warm in the mug she held, but the bitter taste didn't matter. Clara's message had awakened her to the urgency of taking action. Michael needed her, and she could no longer hide behind her insecurities. As she looked out the window, the sunlight seemed to promise a new beginning. Determined, she quickly dressed and left her house. The journey to Michael's school never felt so long, but with each step, her confidence grew. She knew he was there, waiting for her, even if he didn't know it. Deep down, there was a hope that propelled her, the hope that the connection between mother and son could still be restored. Upon arriving at the school, Veronica felt a knot in her throat. The environment was familiar, but tension surrounded her like a heavy cloud. She took a deep breath and walked to the entrance. This time, the reception was more lively, but anxiety still consumed her. She remembered the letter and how she had poured her heart into it. She knew she needed to be brave, to face the challenges head-on. However, as she approached the gate, a school staff member recognized her. He said, "You again?" with a disapproving look. The disdain in his voice made Veronica's heart sink. She hesitated, but the determination she had built kept her steady. "I need to see my son." "It's important," she said, trying to sound confident. He looked at her, evaluating her. "If you don't have an appointment, you can't come in." Frustration overwhelmed her, but she wasn't going to give up. "Please, I just want to talk to him. It's a matter of life or death for us." The sincerity in her voice made the staff member hesitate. However, he shook his head and walked away, as if her words carried no weight. Veronica felt hope drain away, but just as she was about to turn and leave, she saw a group of students approaching. Among them was Michael. He looked distracted, his eyes downcast, but her heart raced at the sight of him. Without thinking twice, she called his name. "Michael!" He stopped abruptly, looking around until his eyes finally found hers. The look he gave her was a mix of surprise and confusion. Veronica felt time freeze. The other students began to whisper, and the pressure of the situation intensified. What she was about to do could change everything. Michael approached, and Veronica's heart raced unevenly. "Mom, what are you doing here?" The coldness in his voice hurt her, but she couldn't back down. "I just wanted to talk to you. We need to have a conversation. Please." The insistence in her tone made Michael hesitate, but he didn't move. While they were there, a group of classmates began to laugh and point. Veronica felt a heat rise to her face. Shame enveloped her like a heavy cloak. Those laughs, that contempt struck her hard. She remembered the mothers who watched her at the terminal and the disdain she felt from them. The pain was intense, and loneliness surrounded her. But amidst all this, there was a glimmer of hope. "Michael, please listen to me. I know things haven't been easy. I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm here now, and I want to do things differently." The words came out of her mouth like a silent scream. She needed him to understand, to see beyond the pain and contempt. He looked at her, and for a moment, something changed in his gaze. The facade of indifference began to crack. "You don't understand, Mom. I don't know if I want to listen." The frustration in his voice was palpable, and Veronica felt the weight of rejection again. She wanted to scream, wanted to explain, but she knew she needed to be patient. "I understand you're hurt. I'm hurt too. but I want to try for you, for us. Please, give me a chance." The desperation in her voice made her seem more vulnerable than ever. And for a moment, Michael's expression softened, as if he were considering her words. Silence settled between them, and Veronica felt that vulnerability might be the key to mending that broken bond. But suddenly, the school bell rang, and Michael turned away, as if fleeing from something. "I have to go. We have class," he said without looking back. And just like that, he walked away, leaving Veronica alone, with a heavy heart and shattered hopes. She stood there, watching her son walk away, the feeling of helplessness washing over her again. But something inside her changed. She realized that even though rejection was painful, the fight was worth it. Michael needed her, even if he didn't know it. And with that revelation, Veronica decided she wouldn't give up. She would have to confront her failings, her insecurities, and fight for a better future. The journey would be long and full of challenges, but one thing was certain: she was ready to start over. Veronica stood there, in front of the school, while Michael disappeared into the crowd of students. The sound of the bell still resonated in her ears, mixed with the cruel laughter of classmates. The weight of rejection hit her again, but instead of letting it bring her down, she made a silent promise to herself. No matter how difficult it was, she wouldn't give up. This was the first time in a long time that she felt determined to fight. In the days that followed, Veronica began to make small changes in her life. The first step was to seek help. She enrolled in a support group for mothers facing difficulties in their relationships with their children. During the meetings, she listened to stories from other women who, like her, were struggling to reconnect with their children. Each account made her feel less alone. The shared pain and frustration created an unexpected bond with those women. They became a support network, and Veronica began to understand that she needed to strengthen herself emotionally before trying to approach Michael again. But with each attempt to connect with Michael, the obstacles seemed to multiply. When he saw her at school, he would look away, as if she were invisible. That rejection was like a knife, cutting deeper each day. Veronica decided she needed to be more creative in her approaches. In one of the support groups, one of the mothers suggested that she write letters to Michael, even if he didn't read them. The idea seemed strange at first, but Veronica saw it as a way to express her feelings without the pressure of confrontation. That night, she sat at the kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper. The words flowed from her pen like a release. She wrote about her regrets, her dreams for the future, and above all, the love she felt for him. "I'm here, I always will be," she wrote. "I just want you to know that you're not alone." These letters became a way to ease the pain she felt and, at the same time, an act of hope. Meanwhile, Michael's life continued to be a mystery to her. He seemed increasingly isolated, spending hours in his room after school. Veronica felt a mix of worry and helplessness. One day, when she got home, she noticed his door slightly ajar. Curiosity led her to peek inside, and to her surprise, she found Michael sitting on the bed, wearing headphones, lost in a world of music. She hesitated but decided it was time to try again. She knocked softly on the door and entered. "Hi, Michael," she said, trying to sound casual. He looked up but didn't respond. The tension was palpable, and she felt her old insecurities creeping back. But she remembered the letters she had written. "I have something for you," she said, pulling one of the letters from her pocket. "You don't have to read it now, but it's how I feel. I hope one day you can understand." Michael watched her with a mix of distrust and curiosity. He took the letter but didn't say anything. The silence was deafening, and Veronica felt her heart tighten. She left the room, but not without leaving a part of herself there, hoping he would find it. In the days that followed, Veronica continued to write letters. Some were more emotional, others lighter. Over time, she realized that even though Michael wasn't ready to listen, writing helped her organize her thoughts and emotions. She began to focus on taking care of herself as well, practicing meditation and going for walks. This new routine made her feel a little stronger each day. One afternoon, while walking in the park near her home, she ran into Clara, her longtime friend. Clara greeted her with a warm hug and soon noticed that something was different about Veronica. "You seem lighter," she commented. The friend encouraged her to talk about what was happening. Excitedly, Veronica shared her experiences in the support group and the letters she was writing to Michael. Clara listened attentively, and the empathy in her gaze made Veronica feel she had found an ally. "It's a good start, Veronica," Clara said. "Sometimes, kids need time to process their emotions. Keep showing him that you're there even if he doesn't react." Those words resonated within her, and Veronica realized she was on the right path. However, what surprised her most was the response she received from Michael a week later. He called her to talk. Fear washed over her, but she knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. As she entered his room, she saw him holding the letter she had left him. "Mom," he began, his voice trembling, "I read what you wrote." His expression was softer, and Veronica felt a wave of hope. "I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. It's hard for me too." Veronica's heart raced. It was small, but it was a step. And in that moment, she knew the journey was just beginning. The obstacles were still there, but now, instead of feeling alone, she was certain she was fighting for something worthwhile. And above all, there was a light of hope guiding her. That night, with a blank sheet of paper before her, the words began to flow. She wrote about her regrets, her dreams, and above all, her love for him. As she finished the letter, she felt a lightness as if she were lifting a weight off her shoulders. These letters became a catharsis, a form of hope amid the pain. Meanwhile, Michael's life remained a mystery. He isolated himself more with each passing day, and Veronica grew concerned. One day, while passing the slightly ajar door of his room, she felt an urge to enter. She found Michael sitting on the bed, surrounded by music. Hesitant, she decided to try again. With a gentle knock on the door, she entered and, in a calm voice, said, "Hi, Michael." He looked at her but did not reply. The silence was heavy, and she remembered the letters she had written. "I have something for you," she said, pulling one of the letters from her pocket. "You can read it whenever you want." Michael took the letter but said nothing. Veronica left the room, a mix of hope and apprehension accompanying her. She knew she was leaving a part of herself there, hoping that one day he would find it. In the days that followed, Veronica continued to write letters. Each page became a way to organize her emotions. She began to take care of herself, practicing meditation and going for walks, which helped her feel stronger. One day, during a walk in the park, she ran into Clara, her longtime friend. Clara noticed the change in Veronica and encouraged her to talk about her experiences. "You seem lighter," Clara commented, and Veronica opened up about the support group and the letters she was writing to Michael. The empathy in her friend's eyes made her feel she was not alone on this journey. "Keep showing him that you are there," Clara said, and those words comforted her. Veronica realized she was on the right path, even if the road ahead was still long. A week later, something unexpected happened. Michael called her to talk. Veronica's heart raced, but she knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. Upon entering his room, she saw he was holding the letter she had left for him. "Mom," he said, his voice trembling, "I read what you wrote." His gaze had changed, and Veronica felt a wave of hope. "I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. It's hard for me too." Each word from Michael was like a ray of light penetrating the darkness. It was a small step, but it meant so much. Veronica realized that although challenges still loomed, she was no longer alone. There was a light of hope guiding her, and the journey she had begun seemed to finally be taking shape. Over time, Veronica learned to trust herself more and to accept help from others. She began to rebuild her life, understanding that true success was not in what she possessed but in the connections she nurtured and the lessons she learned. With each letter written, with each conversation with Michael, she grew stronger. The adversities she faced were now part of her story of growth and transformation. Veronica discovered that life was made up of new beginnings and that each step, no matter how small, was a victory. The friendships she formed and the solidarity she found in the support group became pillars in her journey. Above all, she learned the importance of loving and respecting herself, a lesson that would accompany her forever. Veronica's story was one of overcoming, and even in the face of difficulties, she was determined to keep fighting and growing. Veronica sat on the edge of Michael's bed, her heart racing. The atmosphere was charged with tension, a remnant of the days when communication between them had been nearly non-existent. Now, after so many letters and conversations, she felt the time had come to face the greatest challenge of her life. The dialogue that would follow could be the turning point she had long awaited. "I read your letters," Michael said, finally breaking the silence that hung between them. The words came out with difficulty, but Veronica sensed the sincerity in his gaze. She had waited for this moment, but now, faced with reality, fear began to creep in. What if it wasn't enough? What if he didn't want her in his life? "And what did you think?" Veronica asked, trying to keep calm in her voice, despite the whirlwind of emotions enveloping her. Michael hesitated, looking at the floor, as if the answers he sought were hidden among the wooden floorboards. "I didn't know you felt all this. I felt so alone and I didn't know how to deal with it," he said, his voice choked. Veronica felt a pang of pain realizing that despite her attempts to connect, Michael also felt lost. It was a reflection of her own struggle, and it made her want to embrace him, but she knew she needed to be strong and listen. "I felt alone too," she replied. "But writing to you helped me understand that I needed to take care of myself and learn to love myself first. I want you to know that I'm here, even when it feels hard." The conversation flowed, and with each exchanged word, Veronica felt the barriers between them beginning to crumble. Michael started to open his heart, sharing his frustrations and insecurities. He spoke about the pressure of school, the friends who let him down, and the feeling that no one truly understood him. Veronica couldn't help but notice how similar those feelings were to her own. It was a common struggle, a reflection of the lives they both led. "When you didn't come to see me at the last game, I felt so disappointed," he confessed, his eyes filled with tears. "I wanted you there, but at the same time, I thought you didn't care." Veronica felt the weight of guilt in her chest. "I didn't know it was important to you. I was so focused on trying to understand myself that I ended up pulling away from you. I'm sorry, Michael." He looked her in the eyes. "I'm sorry too. I should have talked to you. I just didn't know how." The moment the words were spoken, amidst tears and shy smiles, felt like a rebirth. Veronica realized that even amid pain, there was a beauty in the vulnerability they shared. It was a safe space, a refuge where they could be themselves without masks. This was the true connection they had both been searching for. Over time, their conversations became more frequent. They started to understand each other better, and Veronica saw how the journey she had taken led her to this crucial moment. It was not just about her or about Michael, it was about what they could build together. The friendship that was being reborn was a testament to their strength and willingness to start anew. One night, while watching a movie together, Michael turned to Veronica and said, "Mom, I really want us to be closer. Let's try to do more things together." Veronica felt her heart swell with joy. It was what she had always wanted but never knew how to reach. "Yes, let's do that. We can start with something simple like cooking or walking in the park. What do you think?" He smiled, and that smile lit up the room. Veronica realized she had overcome her greatest challenge, the rejection that had kept her stuck in the past. Now, she was ready to build a future that not only included Michael but also included her as the mother she always wanted to be. Veronica's journey had been filled with failures, but each mistake had brought her to this point, and the lessons learned were fundamental. She understood now that overcoming wasn't just about conquering difficulties, it was about recognizing the importance of connecting and showing vulnerability. Life was made of new beginnings, and she was ready to embrace every single one of them. As the movie came to an end, Veronica looked at Michael, now closer than ever. What had once been a relationship marked by distance was now transforming into a solid friendship. It was a moment of pure satisfaction, where life's lessons became visible. The friendship they cultivated had become the foundation of a new story, one that promised to be filled with love, understanding, and mutual growth. And finally, Veronica knew she was exactly where she needed to be. As the movie was coming to an end, Michael turned to her. "Mom, do you remember that time we tried to cook together and almost burned the house down?" Laughter escaped his lips, and Veronica couldn't help but laugh too. It was a light moment, a reminder that life was made up of ups and downs, but that each experience, good or bad, contributed to the relationship they were building. "Yes, and I still have nightmares about the smell of that burnt onion," she replied, laughing. "But, I would love to try again. We can have a family cooking day. That would be amazing. We can invite Sarah and Lucas and have a real party," Michael suggested excitedly. Veronica smiled at the idea. Their friendship was a good sign that Michael was opening up to more connections, not just between mother and son, but also with friends. In the days that followed, they began to explore this new dynamic. Conversations became more natural and frequent. Veronica noticed that Michael was more relaxed, smiling more often and sharing his daily experiences. He talked about school, friends, and even the difficulties he still faced, but now there was a touch of hope in his voice. One afternoon, as they sat on the couch, Michael said, "I used to think you didn't care about me. But now, I feel like you really are here. That means a lot to me." Veronica felt a wave of emotion upon hearing those words. "I always cared, Michael. I was just so lost that I couldn't show it. I'm so happy we managed to reconnect. You are very important to me." These small declarations became a habit between them. With each conversation, each shared laugh, Veronica felt her confidence growing. She also started to open up more about her own struggles, allowing Michael to see that she wasn't alone in her battles. Over time, she realized that this new phase in her life wasn't just about her relationship with Michael, but also about her own self-acceptance. Veronica began to allow herself to feel her emotions, without fear of being vulnerable. The letters she had written were not just a means of communication, they were a form of self-discovery. However, not everything was perfect. There were days when the shadows of the past threatened to return. Veronica still struggled with guilt and insecurity, but now she had someone by her side to face those difficulties. When those shadows appeared, she talked openly with Michael, and he always reminded her of how far they had come together. One night, as they reviewed the letters they had exchanged, Veronica became emotional seeing how much they had grown. "I can't believe this all started with handwritten words. Look where we are now." "That's true, Mom. Sometimes, we just need a little push to see what really matters," Michael replied, with a smile full of understanding. These interactions helped Veronica see the impact that her decisions had not only on her own life but also on Michael's life. He was becoming a more confident and secure young man, and she felt grateful to be part of that transformation. The days became brighter. The mother-son relationship flourished, and Veronica felt fulfilled. She learned that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but rather of courage. Life was a cycle of new beginnings, and even when challenges arose, she was ready to face them because now she had the strength of a renewed bond. Veronica knew that the journey still had its ups and downs, but she was confident that together they could overcome any obstacle. And so, with a light heart, she looked to the future, excited about the new adventures that awaited. Veronica watched with a smile on her face the changes that had occurred in her life and in Michael's life. That journey that began with words written in letters was now reflected in moments of happiness and genuine connection. What was once a relationship marked by silence and misunderstandings had now become a safe space where both could share their vulnerabilities and achievements. As time passed, the relationship between mother and son grew stronger. Michael learned to open up, to express his emotions, and to see his mother as an ally in his struggles. Veronica, in turn, rediscovered herself. The fears that had paralyzed her were replaced by a newfound confidence. The simple act of cooking together, laughing about burnt onions, became a symbol of the transformation they were both experiencing. Each meal prepared together was a celebration of the renewed bond that united them. Veronica realized that the vulnerability that once seemed like a weakness was, in fact, a source of strength. She learned that admitting she needed help didn't make her less capable, but more human. This new perspective pushed her to open up to new experiences and seek connections she had previously avoided. Michael's friendship with Sarah and Lucas also brought a special brightness to family life, as the laughter and shared adventures helped create an environment of love and acceptance. While reflecting on everything she had lived, Veronica understood that true wealth lay in the relationships she had built. Success would no longer be measured by personal achievements but by the ability to love and be loved. She realized that happiness was not a destination, but a journey that deepened with each day they chose to be together, facing the ups and downs of life. One night, as they looked through old photos and laughed at the memories, Michael said, "Mom, I'm so grateful for all of this. Not just for our relationship, but for everything I've learned from you." Her son's words touched Veronica's heart. She knew that every step taken together had shaped them, turning pain and difficulties into a story of overcoming and love. Deep down, Veronica understood that life was a constant new beginning. There were valuable lessons in every mistake, in every choice made. She decided that, regardless of the challenges that might still arise, she would face everything with courage and love. Together, mother and son were ready for any obstacle because now they had each other for support. As they ended the night, Veronica looked at Michael and felt a wave of gratitude. They had built a bond that not only connected them but also strengthened them. With a heart full of hope, she knew the future was bright and that together they could create many more happy memories. If you identified with this story of overcoming and transformation, don't hesitate to share your own experiences in the comments. How have you dealt with challenges in your relationships? Your story could inspire others to find the courage to open up and seek deeper connections. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more exciting stories like this one. Together, we can create a space where everyone feels motivated to share and grow. The time to act is now.